Thanks for joining us here on MLSsoccer.com with Simon Borg. I'm Jason Seguini. A lot of fans looking at this Clint Dempsey signing and saying Seattle Sounders are now MLS Cup favorites. Simon and I decided we'd take a look at the Western Conference and really handicap it to who we think are the likely teams to make MLS Cup and why. We're giving you the order here as it stands today. Now, of course, there's games in hand to think about. There's US Open Cup, CONCACAF Champions League, a lot going into this. Let's give it a go, Simon, and we'll start with Real Salt Lake, one of the teams still alive in the US Open Cup.
Jason, I think Real Salt Lake has a great chance at the Supporters' Shield. Over the course of a season, I think their squad is going to be strong. My concern is, in the course of a two-game playoffs, when it all comes down to those 90 minutes, 180 minutes, do they have enough game breakers? I don't think so. I give them a 12% chance of making it to MLS Cup.
All right, I actually like Real Salt Lake a little bit better. I think they have depth all around the field, and I think their defense is the only real question. But for me, they're anywhere from good to great, depending on who's healthy and if they can integrate Brandon McDonald. I think they have a couple different looks. I like what they have up front. I'm giving them a 22% chance here.
Moving on to Colorado Rapids. This is a team that's impressed me tremendously. I think Oscar Pereira has finally found the team that works, has found the right balance. They have toughness, they have hard workers, but they also have game breakers up top, guys who can make a difference. I think they can make a run and shock people. I give them a 16% chance of making it to MLS Cup.
All right, I'm going to disagree with you here and go a little bit less, and here's why. Colorado, for me, relies on a lot of young players, and as the season goes on, I think you're going to see some of those guys like Chris Clute, Dylan Powers maybe hit the wall. I don't think Deshaun Brown is a guy you can rely on in the playoffs. I'm giving them a little less of a chance. I do appreciate the fact that they have a good home field advantage if they do get into the playoffs. But when you look at the standings right now, a lot of the teams below them can actually catch them and surpass them with games in hand. So I'm not sure they're even in that great of a spot. I'm giving them a 9% chance.
Moving on to the Portland Timbers, a team that's impressed everyone. Fewest losses in Major League Soccer. And to me, what's impressed me most, not only the tactics and the personnel, but also the fact that they have this will about them. And I think in the playoffs, when it comes back to the wall, I like their chances, especially with their home field. They have this tremendous will to win. I'm giving them a slightly higher probability than Colorado, 17% chance for Portland.
All right, I do like Portland. I think their starting 11 can compete with anyone. The problem that I have with the Portland Timbers right now is I don't know if they could afford to lose any of their big five players, whether it be Donovan Ricketts, Darlington Nagbe, Diego Valeri, Will Johnson. Those kind of guys aren't replaceable. They don't have the depth there. And I think over the course of the second half of the season, somebody could get nicked up, or again in the playoffs, you have a guy suspended. I give them a good chance. I do like what they've done this season, but I'm not sure it's as high as you. I give them a 12% chance.
And then we have the reigning champs, LA Galaxy. They've won it twice in a row. Will they do the three-peat? I think they will be in MLS Cup. I'm going to give the highest rating here of any club in the Western Conference, 25%. And the reason I believe is that LA Galaxy, we're used to seeing them mid-table around this time of the year. When the playoffs approach, the veterans, they get together. They know it's go time. And I think Donovan and Keane, when they finally get back on the field at the same time, I think together they will form that chemistry again. They'll start putting in the goals just in time for the playoffs.
I agree with everything you say here. I think the LA Galaxy, for me, still the favorites. You look at what they were able to do last year. They have all the right pieces. They have the experience. They even have reps for their young guys now, more reps for their young guys. So I'm giving the Galaxy a 30% chance to represent the West in MLS Cup.
The Vancouver Whitecaps, a streaky team this year. They have spells where they can't get a win, others where they look like they're world beaters. I think this team is a little too up and down for the playoffs to have that consistency. I think this team is a year away. They can be explosive and really play a really attractive style in some matches, but then they come up small in others. I give them a 7% chance looking ahead to 2014.
Yeah, I think for the Vancouver Whitecaps, it's going to be a struggle to even get into the playoffs because of what you said, the inconsistency. They rely on a lot of young guys. I don't know that over the course of the rest of the season, they're going to be moving up the standings. I think they're going to be around this 5 spot, but in the end, they might not make the playoffs at all. I'm giving them a 4% chance.
FC Dallas, a team that started so well earlier in the season. I was not high on them even when they were on top of the league. I think this dip in form that we're seeing them experience right now will continue. This feels like an old team, a little bit of a tired team, a lot of the same faces. I think they will struggle to make the playoffs. If they do, I don't give them much of a chance. 4% chance for Dallas.
I agree with you right on here, Simon. I feel similarly about them as I do Vancouver. They may not even make the playoffs in the end, and if they do, it's going to be such a struggle to do so that they might be exhausted by the time the playoffs start. I give them a 4% chance as well.
When it comes to Seattle, this is the team everyone's in love with. They have all the big stars, but I think it will take time for Ziggy Schmidt to find the right balance with Clint Dempsey and the other stars on the team. I think Clint Dempsey is a tactical conundrum for this team. By the time they do, I think that will impact their playoff positioning, their seeding, and because of that, I think it will impact how they perform in the playoffs. I don't see them surviving. I give Seattle a 10% chance of making MLS Cup.
I like Seattle a little bit more, and here's why. I like their pieces before they brought in Dempsey. It is going to be a little bit to figure out, but I think they have the time to do it. The next 3 months are going to allow Ziggy Schmidt to figure out what works best. And when it comes down to it and you get into the playoffs, you need difference makers. Seattle has difference makers. Whether it's Mauro Rosales making that killer pass or Clint Dempsey finishing. Remember, Obafemi Martins, Eddie Johnson, they have a lot of weapons and they also have depth at a lot of positions. If they lose one guy, they have a guy coming off the bench that can replace them. For me, I like Seattle to make this second half push. Remember, no CONCACAF Champions League for them. I give them a 15% chance, exactly half of the chance I gave the LA Galaxy.
The San Jose Earthquakes, they are the reigning Supporter Shield winners. They had a tough start to this season. I think now they're finding their form again, but I think that start earlier in the year, all those drop points will impact them. I think they don't make the playoffs, but if they do, I think they're a team that no one wants to face. I give them a 9% chance to make MLS Cup.
Well, I agree with you here on the Quakes being a dangerous team if they make it into the playoffs. For me, the issue is it's a tough hill to climb right now. They've dug themselves a hole in the first half of the season. I think they're going to be so dangerous on set pieces in the second half. When you look at Bernardez, Gordon, Lenhart now adding to it, of course, Clarence Goodson. And then you have Chris Wondolowski mopping up. They're going to score some goals. And when you play playoff games that are very tight, those are the type of goals that are scored. If they get in, I think they can make a run, but I think it's going to be so difficult for them to get in the first place. I'm only giving them a 4% chance.
As for Chivas USA, the only way they get into MLS Cup, in my opinion, buying tickets from their neighbors, LA Galaxy, who I think have a great chance at hosting it. Chivas USA looking to next year. They're rebuilding, 0% to make it.
Can't say I disagree here. 0% as well. When you look at it, Simon and I think the LA Galaxy still favorites in the Western Conference despite the Seattle Sounders signing of Clint Dempsey. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Who are the favorites in the Western Conference to make MLS Cup?